The rain came down like broken glass from the heavens that night, slicing through the silence of the city. In a dimly lit alley behind the upscale Riverside Plaza, a man stood hunched over a garbage bag, pulling out half-wilted vegetables and discarded bread. His name was Daniel Reyes, a former paramedic turned janitor, and a single father barely scraping by. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to take leftovers from the bakery dumpster. But his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, hadn't eaten all day, and he had to try something. As he zipped up his soaked hoodie and turned to leave, a strange sound cut through the storm. A faint gasp, almost like someone whispering their last breath. He froze. And then he heard it again. He rushed toward the sound. There, slumped beside a sleek black car in the alley, was a woman in a soaking designer coat, clutching her chest. Her lips were blue. Her eyes, wide with fear. Daniel didn't hesitate. He dropped the bread and ran to her side, instinct taking over. "Ma'am. Can you hear me?" he said urgently. Her only response was a weak, fading moan. He pulled out his phone, no signal. Typical. That part of the city always had dead zones. He knelt beside her and checked her pulse, thready. Too fast. A heart attack, maybe. Daniel's training surged to the front of his mind, even if his paramedic license had expired 2 years ago. "I'm not going to let you die," he whispered, more to himself than to her. He performed chest compressions, whispered encouragement between counts, and when she stopped breathing for a moment, he gave her rescue breaths like he'd done countless times before. Minutes passed like hours. Then, flashing lights. An ambulance skidded into the alley, sirens wailing. "Over here!" Daniel shouted. The medics took over, and Daniel stepped back, breathless, soaked, and shaking. He had no idea who she was. He just hoped she'd survive. 2 days later, Daniel was back at work, scrubbing floors in the same building, Riverside Plaza. His supervisor barked at him for showing up late, again. But that night hadn't let him sleep. He couldn't stop seeing the woman's terrified eyes. He didn't know she had survived. And he didn't know that the woman he'd saved was Victoria Langford, CEO of Langford Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar real estate empire. Victoria had spent those 2 days in the hospital with one thing on her mind, the man who saved her. She remembered the strong arms, the calm voice. She remembered being held between life and death by a stranger who refused to let her go. And when she found out, through security footage, that the man was a janitor at her own building, she demanded to see him. Daniel was cleaning the lobby when 2 sharply dressed men approached. "Daniel Reyes?" one asked. Yeah. "You need to come with us. Miss Langford is requesting to see you." He thought it was a joke. He thought he was being fired. But when the elevator opened on the penthouse floor and he saw Victoria sitting up in a hospital bed set up in her suite, looking pale but very much alive, he froze. "You," she said softly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "You saved my life." Daniel looked down, awkward. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," she said. "No one else was there. Just you. You didn't walk away. You gave me back my life." He nodded, unsure what to say. "I'm just glad you're okay." She smiled, then looked past him. "Who's the little girl in your locket?" Daniel instinctively clutched the chain around his neck. "My daughter. Lily. Tell me about her." What started as a 5-minute thank you turned into a 3-hour conversation. Daniel told her about how his wife had died during childbirth. How he tried to balance EMT shifts and raising Lily. How he'd lost his job after a back injury, and with no family to help, he'd taken whatever work he could find, janitor, delivery driver, anything to keep Lily fed. Victoria listened, really listened, and something in her shifted. That night, she asked her assistant to look into Daniel's situation. And what she found made Victoria cry. Over the next few weeks, Victoria and Daniel grew close. She recovered, and he visited with Lily, who brought joy back into Victoria's sterile, high-rise world. Lily would draw pictures and call her Miss V. They'd bake cookies in Victoria's marble kitchen, and Daniel would shake his head, amazed at how easily his daughter and this billionaire woman had bonded. But not everyone was thrilled. Victoria's board of directors, especially her cold-hearted cousin Randall, began whispering. "You're getting too involved," they warned. "He's using you." Victoria stood firm. "He saved me. Not just my life, he reminded me what matters." But the whispers became louder. Randall tried to have Daniel fired from his janitorial job under the guise of security concerns. When that didn't work, he leaked Daniel's financial history to the media, trying to paint him as a leech, a con artist. Daniel saw the headlines. Single dad with debt scandal linked to Langford heiress. He was humiliated. He packed up and told Victoria he was leaving. "I never wanted this," he said, eyes full of pain. "You don't deserve the mess I bring." Victoria didn't beg. She simply walked to Lily, knelt beside her, and said, "Do you want me to be part of your life?" Lily nodded. "Then I'm staying," Victoria said firmly, turning back to Daniel. "Because family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters most." Months passed. With Victoria's help, and trust, not charity, Daniel started a non-profit for single parents in crisis. He called it Lily's Light. It offered free childcare, job placement assistance, and housing support. And Victoria? She stepped back from day-to-day operations at Langford Enterprises. She said it was time to live instead of just accumulate. On a quiet spring morning, at a small ceremony in a community park, Victoria stood beside Daniel and Lily, cutting the ribbon to the first Lily's Light Center. Cameras flashed. Reporters asked questions. But none of it mattered. What mattered was the way Lily grabbed Victoria's hand and called her Mom for the first time. And the way Daniel looked at her, not like a man in awe of a billionaire, but like someone who had finally found peace, and partnership, and hope. The world had tried to break them. Poverty. Heartache. Judgment. But love, quiet, unexpected, powerful love, had the last word. Because sometimes, saving a life means more than just restarting a heart. Sometimes, it means giving someone a reason to live. And that, dear listener, is what will make you cry. Never underestimate the power of compassion. One act of kindness can change everything.